Welcome to Not for Pie Eaters. I'm John Dougal. In my line of work, most engineers prefer diving into the details. In that way I've been a bit of an anomaly. I prefer focusing on the big picture. And what that means is I have a natural love for understanding systems of things and how it all works together, especially if it's a system that affects me personally or if it's a system that I could benefit from. Like the stock market. Most systems involve people, so in a way, being a big picture person means that I like to understand behavior. We can always work on ourselves and perhaps on our own families, and those are worthy and achievable goals, far more attainable than trying to change society. So today we're going to look at one root problem that leads to the destruction of relationships and destruction of the family. And from the church, I have never heard this message. Why? I have a strong opinion as to why, and the answer is pretty ugly, and I won't dive into that today, except to say that I believe that the problem started when Christian business and marketing firms got involved with church growth, and I'll just leave it at that. Today's message starts with the differences between the sexes and the all too common problem that arises ever since the fall. If we knew the differences between the sexes, we would better understand the conflicts, and we'd be better prepared to see opportunities to change and to find harmony. I've already covered in a couple of videos the intrinsic man and the intrinsic woman, and they speak to the basic differences between men and women. And both videos are in the People playlist, and it's a good place to start in understanding our inherent differences. For now, I'll just sort of recover a couple of highlights. For starters, the physiology of a woman is far more sexual than the physiology of a man. Physically, a man is built for work. He has greater upper body strength and a mind fixated on problem solving. Compared to a woman, he is outwardly less sexual. Basically, he's got a small sex organ tacked onto this body for work, and then that's it, the bare bones minimum. You look at a woman, and everywhere you look, you see sex. She's built to grow children inside her, and then to nourish the children when they come out. Her hips are wide to make room for a child to grow, and even her spine is curved where it meets the hip bones. It helps her with balance as the baby grows. She has fat stores that are higher to make sure that the child that's conceived is better guaranteed to be nourished. And, her breasts are for feeding when the child comes out. Well, so it should be no wonder that the psychology of a woman is far more sexual than a man as well. Women are higher in negative emotion, in trait neuroticism. And women are more cautious and fearful. And it makes complete sense. How many babies would die if women did not err on the side of safety and caution? And a woman is far more attuned to emotion. When babies are born, they are 100% emotion and 0% reason. So it makes sense for women to be emotionally attuned to a baby. She's far better suited to care for a baby than a man is. So a woman's physiology and her psychology, makes complete sense. And as a reminder, the negative emotions she experiences stronger than men are fear, anger, anxiety, those sorts of things. Okay, well, that's our foundation and starting place. So what happens when a couple argues? Well, a man's built for work. He sees a problem and he is therefore focused on solving the problem and then getting on with life. The woman has her feelings and she's focused on that and focused on the man understanding her feelings. And then both parties have their pride. And pride's what brings about this foolish notion of I'm right, you're wrong, I must win. Well, any guy who's been in a relationship can tell you what happens when there's an argument and when he knows that he's found some irrefutable high ground of reason and all the underlying tidbits that he can just, identify that'll make him, conclusively win the argument. So he'll puff out his chest, throw down his killer facts, and declare that he's won. Well, when that happens, she'll dredge up some unrelated instance where there was a mistake made by him in the ancient past. And the guy's like, what? What does this have to do with anything? And they've already rehashed this same event 100 times. Why do we got to go over it one more time? It shouldn't matter. Well, she brings up the ancient history because she doesn't want him to win the argument, because her focus is on the emotions, not the facts and the data and the reasons. She doesn't care about that. She feels hurt or angry or sad, and she's feeling what she feels is important to her, that and her pride. And so she needs him to surrender, because that's what she needs in order for him to understand how, in her mind, he has made her feel. Well, that's the story behind this meme. Fun fact, the majority of archaeologists are women due to their natural ability to dig up the past. We laugh at a meme like this because we can relate to its truth. Anyone who's been in a relationship and been in an argument has had some ancient history tidbit dredged up and dusted off as if it's the grand poobah of arguments, for the woman. And it invariably happens when a man pits logic and reason against a woman's emotion. Okay, let's change gears for a moment, because we can't throw all women into one bucket. That's just not fair at all. And some women are far more driven by emotion than others, and some women are far more resilient to life's troubles. In conflict situations, one woman will behave, quite differently than another. So let's talk about that. There are women who will rarely engage in conflict, and they have this amazing ability to keep little things little, and only engage in an argument when the issue is truly important. And other women, they'll fight to the death over just about anything. And such women will invariably attribute the cause of their feelings onto the man. He made me angry. He's such an asshole. I'm sad. He makes me feel insecure, like I'm garbage. I don't feel like I can trust him. Well, it'd be helpful to assess and predict what types of women will be more reactive. For therapists, there's a thing called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM. And the current version is DSM-5. I am not a therapist, nor am I any sort of mental health professional. I'm just a guy with an inordinate appetite for reading. And to be honest with you, I really haven't spent much of any time at all in DSM-5. I have in DSM-4, and I just really don't have a driving desire or need to look into DSM-5. So we'll talk about DSM-4 because that's what I'm more familiar with. And in that, there are 5 diagnostic axes, and the 5th is called the Global Assessment of Functioning. It's a really simple concept. There's a scale with a score from 0 to 100, and higher scores, say about 75 to 80 and above, they demonstrate no obvious dysfunctional behavior, good sociability, and an increasing resilience to the troubles life brings as the score, goes beyond 75. So picture someone with a score of 100, and we'll use a guy in this case. And say he's just had his parked car hit while he was in a grocery store. To him, it's a minor annoyance. He's not going to let it upset him. He knows the insurance company will deal with it, that his feelings and emotions about the situation aren't going to change the situation, and he knows that he's got better things to dwell on than a damaged bumper. People that are that resilient are sought out by others because of their positivity, steadiness, and general helpfulness. Well, okay, now let's look in the middle. Scores, say 60 to 70. And that's where there's markedly more moodiness and where some detrimental social activity appears. And scores below 60 have various degrees of dysfunctional behavior and a clear lack of resilience to life's troubles. These people fall apart over, all of life's little mishaps, and everything is a big deal to them, whether it should or shouldn't be. Well, for our purposes, we'll look at DSM-4 Axis 5 with just 2 buckets, and we'll call them high functioning and low functioning. And I'm going to throw in my opinion regarding high functioning and low functioning. Women feel more than men, but in my opinion, low functioning women value their feelings far more than they value facts and reason, and they value their feelings far more than high functioning women. So low functioning women will be far more reactive since their feelings drive their behavior. To try to kind of organize these thoughts, I put together this little table, and this is what we have so far. For the row headings, we have low functioning and high functioning women. And for the column headings, we have negative emotions triggered, other triggers, whether or not emotions are highly valued over reason, whether or not one is more prone to contention, and then the motivation behind controlling behavior. Well, the low functioning woman will be more easily triggered by negative emotions, insecurity, fear of abandonment, anger, resentment, anxiety, and she'll also have her pride, and she'll highly value her emotions over reason or logic, which makes her more prone to be contentious. The goal of the contention is to protect herself from these negative emotions, and she protects herself by controlling her man. Well, the high functioning woman is less likely to be triggered by negative emotion, and if she is triggered, she may feel a bit insecure, or in the case of a bigger issue, she may be angry, and the feelings could have some validity. Guys clearly are not perfect. And everyone struggles with pride, so the high functioning woman, she's not immune. And she can be reasoned with, though, because she's not volatile and she's not prone to strong contention. If there is contention, her motivation may be seen to say, hey, I just need to be seen as valuable by her man. Maybe he's been prideful and hasn't been showing her the care and respect he should. Or maybe, she needs to just test her man's masculine frame a bit, because that brings her reassurance, that he is who he says he's going to be and he won't wimp out. So let's look at a few verses. In Genesis 3:16, then God said to the woman, you will greatly desire, and the word that's translated as desire implies a desire to control. So you'll be greatly desire to control your husband, but he'll rule over you. Well, we've just looked at the motivation for controlling behavior, and some women will be more prone to controlling behavior than others. A low-functioning woman is prone to feeling insecurity, fear of abandonment, anger, resentment, anxiety, and she's likely to get her pride triggered, and she'll say to herself, I deserve better. If I was still with so-and-so, he wouldn't treat me this way. And so she'll take controlling steps to protect herself because she feels that her controlling behavior is justified. She looks at her emotions as being supreme, and her logic goes, if I'm feeling this way, he made me feel this way. So she replaces the responsibility for the emotions that she feels on her man, and that's her justification for control. Okay, let's look at a few more verses. Let's look at Song of Songs and Proverbs. In Song of Songs 2:2, like a lily among thorns is my darling among the young women. Well, this verse basically contrasts a high-functioning woman with a low-functioning woman. The high-functioning woman is a lily, beautiful and pleasant. The low-functioning woman is a thorn. She is unpleasant, and given time, she'll prick you over and over again. And the prick comes in the form of control. Sad note on this, but there's one lily, and amongst the young women, there are thorns. So it's basically saying that the lily is rare. Sad fact. Okay, Proverbs 21:19. It's better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. Because a contentious woman is perpetually trying to wrestle control over the man. All right, so this is the situation. And what do you do as a man? Well, it depends on what type of woman you have, high functioning or low functioning. In Proverbs 15:2, the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools poureth forth foolishness. God, there's nothing worse than a guy with some facts on the tip of his tongue that just feels compelled to blurt them out without even really thinking about what it is he's trying to achieve by blurting it out. The foolish man will look to his value of reason and ignore a woman's value of emotion. And the foolish man will blurt out what he knows and insist that he's won the argument. Well, this is going to certainly make the situation worse with a low-functioning woman, and it'll aggravate and try the patience of a high-functioning woman. So what am I saying? Don't be a fool. Wisdom is not blurting out what you know. Wisdom is finding a path that leads to a desired result. A wise man will look to the emotions that are being triggered in his woman, and he'll have healthy interpersonal boundaries, and he'll enforce them. He'll not accept controlling behavior, and he'll not take responsibility for her emotions. Because, her behavior and her emotions are her responsibility. But he will care, and he will listen, and he will acknowledge what she's feeling. He'll realize she's a woman, and that's the way God designed her, to be more emotional. And so winning an argument is not the goal of the wise man. The goal is charting a course for the family or relationship and seeking harmony. That's his goals, And if a woman chooses to run down the paths of anger, contention, or what have you, he accepts that those decisions are on her, and he won't try to talk her out of what she's feeling. If it does go too far, and his balance are clearly being challenged all the time, then that comes to the point where you got to draw a line in the sand saying, hey, this is just not acceptable. And if this continues, there's only one result and we're done. And he needs to make that politely clear to her. It's like, we're not going to do this, and try to lead her in a path of healthy boundaries. Okay, so what does wisdom tell us to do? Number one, ideally, don't enter into a relationship with a low-functioning woman. If you've crossed into that path, well, there you are, and you're going to have to figure out what to do from there. Part of that starts with learning to change, both the man and the woman. And if healthy interpersonal boundaries is a new topic to you, learn how do you establish healthy boundaries. And I'd recommend Cloud and Townsend's book, Boundaries. It describes what responsibilities you own and what responsibility the others own, and what you both need to provide and then not withhold from one another. Number three, you put your pride in check and focus on the objective, and it should never be winning the argument. 4, have compassion for a man. Realize that your woman's higher trait neuroticism and her higher propensity for negative emotions, it's not a defect. Her higher propensity for negative emotions was given to her by God, and it helps her to be a good mother, and it's part of femininity. So be the man and love her and care for her. And for the woman, own your boundaries. Do not make emotions his responsibility, and be aware that controlling behavior is sin. It's always 100% wrong and never justifiable. And realize that controlling behavior damages relationships and it disrespects your man. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you have, please give the video a like and consider sharing it with a friend. These little actions really help the channel. Linked on the screen are the videos for the intrinsic man and the intrinsic woman if you haven't seen those. I think it'll help out. Till next time, cheers.